Hey, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Wild and the Whites podcast. Here we are tonight, I should say.
Tonight. It's a beautiful night.
Sitting around a fire, and we're going to talk some waterfowl hunting.
Yeah.
And this episode is going to basically be turned over to Paul and Tyler, because you guys actually know what you're talking about on this.
He knows more than me.
I wouldn't go that far.
Taught me.
I wouldn't go that far.
He taught me what I know.
And Andrew and I are just going to sit here and listen and ask questions and make sure that if you guys say anything weird, it can be clarified, because I have no idea what you're talking about half the time when it comes to it. So this will be good. Yeah. So make it however educational you want it or not. But, this is a good opportunity maybe for us to, for you guys to teach us a thing or two about it. Yeah. So
yeah,
if you guys can go ahead.
Hopefully we can get you guys out this year and you guys can actually see it and do it in person, which would be nice.
So, which I think that might actually kick us off with my first question, which you don't have to ask right now, but...
Ask, answer.
I'm going to ask. You don't have to answer right now.
Yeah, I gotcha.
How do I go about this? Because you guys keep talking about it, and I've gone online and I've looked into it, and I'm like, that's a lot.
And what's the budget for stuff?
Okay. Yeah. Hold on. Can I start with my budget versus your budget?
Yeah. You start. It's like registering a car.
So
you start.
So five years ago, maybe more now. Probably like 6 or 7 years ago, you brought me out.
Worst memories,
yeah, brought me out the first time, and he brought me out in just my regular camo. He wore his waders. It went out just the two of us on an early morning sit duck hunting, just in town basically for us, right outside of where we were working at the time.
By regular camo, you mean like pre-Sitka, Paul?
No, I was still in my Sitka.
I think he had Sitka.
I was still in Sitka.
Yeah.
I was still in Sitka.
So his budget's up there.
My budget's up there. I like my nice shit.
I'm looking at like Walmart camo.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Ducks don't like that.
No.
It's true. They're bougie, okay?
Yeah. That's pro camo. All right.
But brought me out. He was in his waders. He did the whole set for the decoys, all that. And I get to experience it for the first time, watching what he has done for probably a couple years at that point. Setting everything up. He was like, all right, now we're just going to blind ourselves in a little bit. We made kind of a little ground blind, sat in it, and we shot a fair amount of ducks that morning. And that was what like sparked it in me, being like, nope, this is something I want to do. I went out a couple more times that year with them, and slowly have started adding to my collection. More of my stuff is now oriented towards duck hunting than any other type of hunting. My clothing is all going towards duck hunting because, let's be real, good waders are not cheap.
No.
I'm looking at getting the Sitka ones like you have this year, and getting rid of those neoprene ones because they'll just dry quicker. But there's a lot of different things that cost money with waterfowl hunting. I'd be betting to say that waterfowl hunting is probably the most expensive type of hunting due to your decoys, your blinds, your gear alone that you're wearing, your guns. You can spend a lot on hunting rifles and all that stuff, but to spend... Would you spend on that last browning, or do we not want to discuss that here?
My wife could be watching.
Yeah, let's not discuss that here.
$200.
So that answered the budget questions. Moving on.
Whatever Tyler says, it might be double what he said.
But there's a lot that goes into waterfowl hunting, and you don't see it from like just watching videos. Once you start getting in there and seeing all the little intricate things, even going down as far as chokes for your gun and depending what you're running. I don't know how many different types of ammo you have. I know I have a bunch of different cases of ammo, bird ammo, and it's all steel shot because we can't shoot lead. So that changes a whole nother thing. That's more expensive ammo. Like it's definitely you can spend a ton of money really quick if you're not paying attention to what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah. Or even if you are paying attention.
Yeah.
If you know what you want, you're going to spend a lot of money for the most part.
And real quick, I know what you're talking about. I think you might too, but can you talk about what difference it makes when you choke your gun differently and use different types of shot with it.
I appreciate your confidence in me, but
I said that like you didn't have to out yourself, but I was doing this for you.
Yeah, we can talk about that. So for those who don't know, most newer shotguns have threaded ends to the barrels, and you can get different what they call chokes, and it's basically a constricting mechanism. Yeah, cone, right? And it dictates what your shot does. So when you pull the trigger and it fires and all your stuff goes down range at whatever your target is, right? It determines whether it's this or whether it's this or kind of in between. So
narrow, wide.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're hunting birds close in, like you're shooting ducks over decoys anywhere from 10 to 30, 40 yards, like real close, fast in your face, you don't want something super constricted because it's really hard to hit a duck flying however many miles per hour they fly with something super tight that like you might use for like turkey hunting where you want to reach out and touch something way out. So there's different options, but the idea is you need to pick what you're, basically what you're hunting for that certain day. So I have, a whole variety of chokes for different guns, and depending on where we go, I'll swap out and do that. And, if you're shooting geese in a field and you might be, shooting at birds that are 60, 70 yards away or cripples getting away, you might want that longer touch. But yeah, what your hunting situation dictates the choke that you use, basically.
Yep. Makes
sense.
Like I have chokes that say over decoys, and that's right there tells me, okay, that one's my close range. And then but sometimes I've been out with other guys where they start blasting at birds that are way too high up, and I just screw in an extra extra long range choke,
and it depends.
Then you can reach out and touch them.
And it depends a lot too on how comfortable and good of a shot you are. And I don't necessarily mean like saying somebody's a poor shot, but some people, I tend to be one of them, will do something a little bit more constricted because I want to be able to shoot something relatively close, but I also want to be able to reach out and touch that, third duck that's getting away from everybody else on my last shot kind of deal. You know what I mean? Like, so I have some option versus, shooting with something like an improved cylinder that's really close and wide. I might have kind of a more constricted choke so I can reach out and touch something at 50, 60 yards.
Okay.
But that's the idea of it is,
Yeah. I usually run a mid-range as well. I've run that since shooting as a kid, clay shooting and shooting clay pigeons all the time, and it's just held through.
Did that answer your question about chokes?
Yeah, that was perfect. Yep.
Perfect.
So do we want to go back to talk about the budget part?
I mean, you're the one that said we were done with it, so if you want to open the door again,
I'll let you open the can of worms.
I'll open the door because I'm going to warn everybody that if you get into waterfowl hunting and you get addicted like I did, it can be very expensive. That being said, though, you can go out there in any old camo with an old shotgun handed down from your grandfather or something and kill ducks totally. Like, not even with decoys if you didn't have any. Or you could have old hand-carved wooden decoys handed down from generations. So you can, go duck hunting, goose hunting, whatever it may be, with a very limited budget. But there's definitely the potential to spend a lot of money. And we'll start with like the basic. The first thing is the gun, right? So you can use any shotgun you pretty much have or already have, but they make a lot of really nice guns geared towards waterfowl hunting. And I mean, you can spend anywhere from $300 up to several thousand. So there's a wide range there.
All about what you're looking for out of the gun, too.
There's
whether
guns
you
that
like pumps, semis, over-unders, double barrels.
Yeah, there's a variety of options. So you can go from as little as you want to as high as you want. It's there's quite a range there, and not to say that you need the $2,000 gun to kill ducks. You know what I'm saying? You don't need that, but it is nice to have some extra perks with it.
Yeah, the extra the camo they're putting on the guns nowadays, so the ducks have great eyesight.
Yeah,
like they catch movement like that. And same with geese. We found it even when we're sitting in a blind. We couldn't figure out one day why they kept flaring up and going away from us. Turns out one of the kids behind us was moving around too much.
So guns, right? So you can be all over the place with that. Now moving into like the next kind of thing you want is mostly decoys, right? So you can find cheap shell decoys for cheap money. You're talking, for geese, you could be like $100 for 6 or a dozen, which seems like a lot of money, but in the world of goose hunting, like you put out 40, 50, 60 decoys, sometimes hundreds of decoys, It adds up pretty fast.
I'm watching Zach's eyes get really big right now.
Yeah. And then if you get into like full bodies, right? So you get into full body goose decoys, you're talking like companies out there that are charging several hundred for 6, right? So if you want to put out many decoys,
suddenly that's $400 for sticks isn't so bad.
I told you guys, it's adding up. It's adding up.
This is the reason why I'm going to buy those new tethered ultralights.
There you go. See, we're justifying your purchase here.
Exactly.
Okay, so decoys, right? Duck and goose decoys, expensive or cheap or all over the place.
Or trophy line ultralights. That's what it was. Yeah.
Oh, the new sticks.
Yeah. Like $450. Yeah, I didn't have a reason till now to buy them, but yeah, they're not
You
decoys.
can get 6 decoys or
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so we have guns, we have decoys. Now you're talking like gear you're gonna wear. So if we're hunting geese in a field or ducks in a field, you can wear, a lot of times if we're in blinds, I'm wearing shorts or carpet pants or whatever, and maybe a camo top, so not a big deal. But if we're hunting over water, you're gonna have waders, and waders can be expensive.
Yeah.
You can get some that are $200, but they're not comfortable. They might not necessarily be warm.
They might not necessarily stay waterproof.
There's a story behind this.
Yes. So waders, they can range up to $1,000 for like Sitka waders, or like $1,000. But I'll tell you what, I bought a pair. Sorry, Jess.
On sale.
On sale.
with the discount.
With discounts, right? Yes, we do get discounts.
And all that.
And they've been great. I've had them for a handful of years now, and I haven't had any problems. And I know people that have had problems, and they send them out, and they get replaced within like 30 days or whatever. So I think it is. I think waders, to me, if I had to pick one thing that I would spend a lot of money on, it would probably be the waders. Especially when you get in late in the season.
I was going to say late
it's
season.
Cold. I mean, we've had times where we've literally been hunting in the river, and it's ice chunks are hitting us.
Yep.
Like we're talking snow, ice, everything, and they make a huge difference. So you're not sitting there frozen.
End of season hunting up here is definitely a different ball game than I think what they get over in like Kansas and all that. Like, it's really cold. The mornings I've walked out and been trying to set decoys, and you're like, why can't I put it? Why isn't it floating? Oh wait, it's sitting on top of a really thin layer of ice. You break it through and get it in there. And that's a part, like, your waders have to be able to withstand running into the ice, running into all that type of crap.
I was just thinking that without getting cut up. Yeah.
Plus, then you got out there and you got to go to the bathroom. You want the zippered ones are nice. You can do what
There's
you need
some
to
luxuries that come with the more expensive waders.
Exactly.
My current pair does not have the zipper, and I will say, after that second cup of coffee in the morning, it sometimes sucks.
So were those waders really not waterproof that you had, or did you just lose control?
Mine are waterproof. Mine are neoprene. My current pair is neoprene. I've had them for 5-6 years now. They've held up.
Just trying to stay warm.
What?
Yeah.
Internal heating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to cool the toes.
That's right.
My issue with my current waders is, one, they don't dry as quick as I'd like, just for storage factors.
Yeah.
And I also like the idea of, I like layering my clothing. And that's one thing that benefits you with the Sitka waders. They're a shell. They're an outside shell, and then you can decide what you want to wear under them for the day.
Yeah, there's a huge advantage over neoprene waders with that. So, like, early in the season, if you're wearing neoprene waders,
I'm sweating.
You are sweating nonstop. Whereas I can wear the Sitka waders. It's a thin material, and I can wear shorts or lightweight pants, and I'm totally comfortable. And then late in the year, I can layer up whatever I want. And they're looser fitting. It's not like a neoprene that's like tight to your body, and it sucks getting them on and off. And so I mean, those are the things. If like I said, I would spend the money on waders if you're going to go that route. I would pick good, lightweight, breathable waders. It doesn't have to be Sitka ones. There's other companies out there that you can get. There's like Rogers Sporting Goods that has decent ones from like $300 to $500, which is still a lot of money, but it's not $1,000.
Right.
With the discounts.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's a lot to it, and like any other thing, there's many accessories you can buy.
Well, and then
there's blind bags, there's remote controlled decoys, there's spinning wind decoys, I mean, you're laughing, but it goes on and on. There's ones you can drive. It's like a little RC car. You can steer the duck around the water.
There's the duck that's head just keeps
And suddenly
circulating.
he wants to go.
Yeah,
And he's
yeah.
like, I'll just do that.
Yeah.
I'll just drive.
I'll drive the duck.
There's ones that we have that literally have a pump inside, and it just makes it go up and down, spraying water like this.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go. You open up a catalog, and you can spend all day like choosing things you want. So
And then
guys
going
have
into
fun
blinds, you got layout blinds, you
Right.
got sit blinds.
Right. So depending on the style of hunting you want to do, you can sit in anything. We've had times where we've gone out and we've sat on the bank in the edge of the river and put some brush around us. Or we have blinds that pop up. It's like a big 4-man, 6-man blind that's an A-frame, and it's it's got a roof, it's got sides, it's got everything. And or there's layout blinds. If we're in the fields, we're in layout blinds, which is like a coffin almost. You're laying on your back, and we put them next to each other. And
And you sit there chit-chatting.
yeah. So waterfowl hunting, you could go as little as you want or really goddamn expensive.
Yep.
But good news for you guys, I have tons of stuff, so you don't have to buy it.
Perfect.
Sweet.
I have like 5 of everything, so don't worry about it.
I was going to say the shed at Tom's is pretty full.
Was. No
Was.
longer, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what else do you want to add to that?
For gear,
Yeah.
calls.
Oh, calls, there you
Calls
go.
is a big one.
Same thing. You could buy a cheap $20 call or you can buy a $200 call. But there's all sorts of calls. There's different duck calls for mallards, wood duck, teal, all the different varieties of duck species. And then there's goose calls, same thing. You can spend $20 or $200, and there's Canada geese, there's snow geese, there's all sorts of stuff you can get. So it's just one of those things. It's like if you go out and you want to get into waterfowl hunting seriously, it just like keeps adding up.
There's
You know
always
what I mean?
something more to add to the pile, I feel like. And they're always coming out with more stuff for it.
And then you throw in ammo, like Paul said. You gotta buy non-lead, so like non-toxic ammo that's a little more expensive. There are cheaper varieties, but most of them are relatively expensive. And typically, if you do well, you're shooting a lot. It's not like turkey hunting where you're like, 1 or 2 rounds will be fine for me.
Right.
No, it's like
A
you go out and you shoot 25 rounds in a day. Well, if you shoot poorly, you're shooting 25 rounds in a day. But if you shoot well, you'll only shoot a handful. But yeah, it all adds up. It all adds up. For
And
sure.
then you throw the whole topic of dogs in. You got 2 dogs now.
Dogs are expensive. Very
So-
expensive.
You can, as I said, you just keep adding to the pile. It's something that's a revolving door, and probably by the time you're feeling like you're getting there and you got most of the stuff you want,
There's always more.
there's either always more or something else you had is either going to break or you're going to be like, I should replace that piece now.
Yeah.
And then you're starting back over. So
It's like the moment you buy like a new gun or something like that, and then your fridge breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, awesome, sweet.
Yeah.
But at least I got the gun.
Right.
We can live without the fridge.
just put it in a cooler with some ice. You'll be fine.
Come December, you don't need a fridge.
That's right. That's right.
We're almost getting to that now. You
Yeah.
can put stuff outside at night and it stays cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess any more questions with that?
It's up to you
That's a
guys.
hard answer. We didn't quite nail it
No.
like budget wise, but I'll tell you, you could spend $100. You could spend $100,000.
For starting out, let's put it that way.
Yep.
For starting out, my recommendation would be make sure your gun can take chokes.
Yep.
You have
Yes, you can.
camo that is appropriate for colors, appropriate for the area where you're going. Hopefully, if you're gonna go sit on the river, you're going with someone that has waders. If you don't, otherwise you're gonna get wet, or you're gonna have to figure out a way to. If you're gonna set decoys, get decoys out there, or get your birds if you shoot them and they land in the water.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about that.
Yeah.
So kayaks, boats.
Kayaks, boats. There's another hole.
Those aren't cheap either.
Nope. So that would be my biggest thing. I think to start out would just be make sure your gun's capable of doing what you need it to do, and you have the proper clothing at least to hide yourself enough for whatever atmosphere you're going. If you're going in a blind, as Tyler said, you can wear shorts, you can wear pants, Carhartts, whatever you want to wear, but just have the camo top, something to kind of blend you into the blind.
Yeah, I would add too that if anybody's listening to this and you're interested in waterfowl hunting, find somebody that is into it before you go out and spend all the money. and then you can see if you truly want to do it. And 2, then it also works out where the nice part about doing it with more people is everyone kind of pulls stuff together. So you guys don't have to go buy a shitload of stuff because we already have a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? So like it works out where like I hunt with a few other guys and they have a bunch of decoys too. So like we always are combining things, and they have blinds and they have this and they have that. So we can combine our resources versus me going out and spending $30,000 or them or whatever, you know. It's an expensive sport, but it's fun.
It's a ton of fun.
On sale.
On sale. Yes, on sale.
On sale. Discount for firefighters.
Yep. There is this discount on Sitka's website.
It doesn't go towards waiters, though.
I wasn't going to say it. If Jess is listening, you just blew your cover.
Edit.
Yeah.
I got
Can you
your
bleep
back.
that out?
Yep.
You can bleep that out.
I got a bleep button.
All right, perfect.
We used it quite a bit the other day.
Yeah, there was a wild ride there
All right,
in
so
the
let's
last
move on
episode.
from gear.
Yeah.
Move on from gear. Next question. You got to have a question. Or Paul can talk.
You can talk.
All right, so
I see Buckley's mind.
Budget with gear. What else? You must have other questions.
This getting started.
Okay.
So I've got to get a license for this, right?
Yes.
Yes.
You got to get your waterfowl license. Depending which state you're in, it might change. But New Hampshire, you got to get your waterfowl license, and then you got to get your HIP permit. It's called the HIP permit.
like hips?
Like hip, you know, HIP.
HIP, but it's H.I.P.
Don't ask us what it stands for.
That's what was coming out of my mouth.
And
so
honestly,
you beat me to it.
Something the state requires.
Did you notice this too?
How do you-
This year, this is the first year I noticed it.
It put it automatically on your
automatically
license.
put it on my license.
It's done it for mine for like the last 10 years. I don't know why, but it does. I think
I
it
never
does
even
it.
noticed it. I
Yeah.
kept going in and doing the other way
No.
and noticed it this year for the first time.
How do you do it?
When you buy your waterfowl license, it's automatically going to do it. We figured this out. Because
so
it's going to
even the
ask you
first time?
questions. It should.
Okay.
If
No.
No,
the first
time
time
it
the
doesn't.
first time. Edit that out. Edit that out.
No, I'm laughing at Buckley
No, that
just
was
burping.
staying on.
I turned my
Edit that out.
mic over and I'm right here.
You won't just say it.
Anyway, so I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'm going to let him speak right now.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just say this is your first time waterfowl hunter, right? You're going to go on to the Fish and Game website, okay? And you're going to go to buy your license. You're going to go through the whole thing, and you're going to waterfowl tag. I forget the amount, whatever it is. It's not much. But you have to
16?
have that along with your other hunting license.
Yep.
Then there's a section on there, and it says you need a HIP, H-I-P. And again, don't ask me what it means because I don't remember. You need to click that if this is your first time doing it, and they will automatically generate you what they call a HIP number. And it's either going to print on your license. If it doesn't, the first time, you have to write it on your license. You have to have that number when you get checked.
You can also go when you're in that same bracket of on the first part of the New Hampshire page when it says your do you want a hunting fishing license? Right below it says get your HIP permit. And you click that, you fill it out, and then you can print off just your HIP permit.
Right, and you have to, you have to have that with your hunting license.
Yep.
Like when a conservation officer checks you, they will, if you don't have it, they will ask you about it.
And then the next part is your duck stamp.
Right, which is a federal thing, right? So you bought your state license and the HIP permit, and the duck stamp is a federal stamp.
Post office.
And
You
buy
go
it
to
at
the post office.
either in person or you can do it online as well and order it online. But you have to have it for hunting season. So if you're going to do it online, you got to do it early.
Okay.
And that has to, technically, it has to be affixed
to your license
and signed.
over the top of it.
However, I never do that, and a lot of people.
I'll edit that out.
Yeah, edit that out. And a lot of people I know don't do that because a lot of people collect them.
Yeah.
You know, every year they're proud to have their waterfowl stamp every year. And so a lot of guys don't do that. And depending on who the conservation officer is, if you know them or they're decent, they won't give you a hard time, but they'll say, "Hey, you should really have that."
As they're walking up, you're over there going.
Yeah. So those are the three things you need: your waterfowl's state license, your HIP permit, and your federal duck stamp.
And that's like a literal stamp.
It's a literal stamp.
Yep.
Literal stamp. Yep.
Comes on a card about.
And they're not
big.
cheap now. They're like 25, 30 something bucks. I
I
can't
think
remember what
they're
it is.
$30 now.
Yeah.
So it's like based on the size, It's like an index card almost.
Yeah, a little bit.
Little smaller.
The card that it comes on is a little probably thinner than an index card, but a little longer.
Yeah.
And it's
So it's like the Vermont wildlife stamps. I don't know if you've ever gotten a license in Vermont, but
no.
Okay.
The stamp's literally probably about, I don't know, 2 inches.
Yeah, I'd say a couple inches by a couple inches.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So actually a lot smaller.
Yeah,
than
the
Vermont
card
wildlife
it's on
stamps.
is
Right.
big enough where you
Gotcha.
can put it in and you won't lose it if you
Right.
don't affix it to your license. You can put it in, you'll find it.
Guilty.
But I don't affix it to mine most of the time.
So yeah, those are the 3 things you need, and that's yearly. Every year you have to do
Okay.
that.
Now, if I already have my hunting and fishing license, can I go in and get this stuff
Yes.
So
afterwards?
I'm the biggest culprit of buying all my tags for the hunting season. I buy my hunting fishing combo at the beginning of the year, right at the new year. Boom, done. Then at the come up on the fall, I buy all my tags. I do it that way because then one, they're on a separate sheet. So if I lost my fishing license, if it got soaking wet, any of that stuff, I'm not one having to reprint all my tags off, and 2, it just keeps everything separated for me. Like 2 different things, but all my licenses are on. My whole license is in. I usually put it in a dry bag and keep it with me, but all my secondary tags are on that separate sheet of paper. So if I rip to grab a bear tag out of it or whatever, I'm not shredding my primary hunting license.
Right.
Is the reason I do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, my annual donation to the fishing game is usually in my tackle box. And I always get the hunting fishing, but I don't think I've ever gone out hunting. Fishing, yeah.
Well, we can change that this
But-
year.
Yeah. It's
Every
my
winter,
donation.
come January, I sit at a computer and I go, I want all these tags,
Yep.
and I
$200
am going to have
later.
such a
Yep.
great season. And then
Hey, can you come in for
then
work?
December comes and it's like, why did I buy all these tags? I have soup left. It's great,
Yeah.
but yeah.
We need the shift covered. Can you come in? Overtime.
Yeah, overtime is key.
Yep.
That's one thing. Tag prices have definitely gone up over the past couple of years
Yeah.
for licenses and all that.
I pretty much buy everything that's an option on there, other than like clam and oyster.
Yeah.
All right, so I
Next
do
season.
have a question.
Yep.
And it's kind of like a weird question, but I'll ask it. So my thought process as to why I've never gotten into waterfowl hunting is during the time of the year that waterfowl is going on, I like to be out in the woods chasing deer, maybe bear still, depending on what's happened with tags and everything. And the way that my mind sits there and thinks is it's like, well, I'm in the woods looking for like 150-pound animal, and I'm going to get a lot of meat in my freezer if I'm successful on this. So that's why I've prioritized that over going waterfowl hunting. So I guess for me, like, I don't even know like what bag limits are for waterfowl hunting. I don't know, that aspect of it. I mean, you've talked about the social aspect, which is actually like really drawing me towards like, okay, I want to try this, but also from a practical aspect of the meat for me, I still have that hung up in my head.
Yeah.
So can you just talk a little bit about like bag limits and like, is that like a daily thing? Is that a season thing? Is it I don't know any of this stuff. So
Yeah. So you want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
So
You know
I
more
would
than me on
start that off with saying, if you want to get into waterfowl hunting for necessarily meat, I mean, it could be okay, but it's not going to compare to like the deer hunting sort of thing,
Okay.
right?
You're
It's
getting breasts out
more
of
it's
it.
more the social aspect and the adrenaline and the activity and then different environments. So versus being in a thick wooded area, we're over a river with moving water and birds flying up and down. It's just a different ballpark. It's a different feel. However, if we move into the bag limit part of it, it changes yearly, and the government dictates it by like what they see from previous years. I actually haven't looked to see
I
what
haven't
this
seen
year's
this
is,
year's
but it's
yet.
usually like for ducks. Well, let me backtrack. I'll start with geese. So right now is September goose season.
Okay.
It's resident goose season. So this is harvesting birds that are resident populations that kind of wreak havoc to a lot of places. All right.
mainly the golf courses.
So,
Okay.
so it's
Fair
a
enough.
short season. It's usually like the month of September. It's like September 1st to 20 something.
I think it's ends the 28th this year.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's basically the month of September, and this is primarily for hunting geese that are local resident birds, and they give you a substantial limit. They give you, you're going to kill 5 or 6 geese a piece or whatever it is this year per person.
I think it's 5
per
this year.
day.
Wow.
Per day.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And then there's a possession limit.
Right.
Too.
You can go ahead.
Which the possession limit is. So you shot. Say the possession.
This is getting to be a lot of numbers for Andrew.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. I think it's like if I correct me if I say this wrong, but the possession limit would be like you shot 5 birds. Say the limit's 10.
Okay.
You shot 5 birds today. You shot 5 birds the next day. You have 10 right now. You can't go shoot any more until those are gone. Like you've eaten them or whatever. Right.
Yeah,
that's how I've always understood it.
Yeah, it's a weird law, but essentially it's to keep people from going out and like having 100 birds in the back of their truck kind of deal and saying that they did this or that. No fishing game officer is really ever going to mess with you on that. I mean, you go out and kill your 5 birds a day and you're fine or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I wouldn't worry necessarily about that part unless you're like out somewhere in the mid-Atlantic and you're killing hundreds of birds in a couple of days. But so resident goose season, you're killing a bunch of birds, local birds, month of September. Then it shifts to start coming October. Now duck season opens up and regular goose season. Okay, so regular goose season, you're only allowed to kill 2 geese.
Okay.
So the limit shifts, and the idea is, you're starting to get birds that are going to eventually be migrating and whatever. So they're not focused on killing all these resident birds that are causing havoc. Ducks is different. So every year they can change the limits, and it's changed quite a bit from when I first started. And this can get a little confusing, so bear with us here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
this gets
you need to be able to identify ducks, which when they're flying at like 30 miles an hour at 6 a.m. can be really hard to do.
really hard.
Speaking from experience, but.
That's why it's fun to go with a lot of people.
But there's a total bag limit, right, for how many birds you can kill in a day. And there's also within that bag limit, there's specifics towards each species. So, like, for instance, mallards. Again, I didn't look at this year's book yet, so I don't know exactly if anything's changed. But, like, for instance, in the past, mallards has been, like, 4 mallards or 3 mallards, and only, 2 can be hens, which are females, versus males. So you got to be able to identify what the species of duck is, and is it a male or a female? Okay, which can be hard to do.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's hard enough sometimes to see antlers in the woods, let alone.
Exactly. And then there's other ducks. So then you have wood ducks. You can only kill whatever it is. I don't know, 3 or 4 wood ducks. Yeah. And then, teal. So there's all these variety of ducks. Luckily, we don't have a whole lot of them around, like varieties around here. We have, a handful, but not like some other areas of the country. So that's what the bag limit is. So you have to read the digest or go online and look at the actual law, and you have to understand, okay, this is the total number of ducks I can kill in a day. This is the total amount of this species I can kill in a day. This is the total amount of this species, and you can kind of break it down. So you might go out and shoot 4 mallards, which is your limit for mallards, and then you could still shoot 2 more ducks, but they can't be mallards. You could shoot wood ducks, teal, something else.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It seems like a lot, but once you do it a few times or you go out and you kind of experience it's not that bad.
It's not.
Mm-hmm. It'd be kind of like if you're going to a pond and catching different species of fish.
Yeah.
You're like, I caught my limit for trout,
right,
but I haven't caught my limit for crappie. I can continue.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Exact same thing, just for ducks.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's also different season or
it's kind of hard to catch and release a duck though.
Yeah. especially when you shoot it with a 12 gauge. Yeah.
That is good insight though. Yeah. So if any of our listeners are thinking of trying that.
Come on, buddy.
Yeah, you can't take it back. Fly.
I'm having images of Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber's is coming back. Pretty bird.
Yeah, always bring duct tape with you.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
But
terrible.
Talking about like bag limits, licenses, all that stuff. There also is a different, depending where you are in the state.
There's zones.
There's zones. and the season ends and starts at different times.
Yeah,
and
that's
also
fair.
has like a break in the middle of it.
Yeah.
There's and every year it changes by a couple days, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta really, right before waterfowl season, sit down, really look at it. I usually screenshot whatever the season dates are and the zones again.
Yep.
I'll put a fresh image on my phone to make sure that I can double back to that anytime I got a question. Is my little cheat way of doing it. I don't know if you have anything.
No, I do the same thing. I usually take a screenshot because a lot of times we go places I don't have cell service, and then I'm like, shit, how many ducks can I shoot again for these? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, like Paul said, there's a split. So, like, there's different regions. There's the Connecticut River Zone. There's the Northern Zone. There's the Inland Zone, and there's like the Seacoast area. And they all have different kind of things. Some of them have breaks, so it'll go for several weeks, and then there's a break for X amount of time, and then it starts back up again. And then like other areas continue through with no break, but they stop sooner. Mm-hmm. And I think they base it a lot off of like the studies in bird migration in populations and all these other things that they do.
A lot of scientific stuff probably
but it changes yearly. So like what could have been a limit?
I'm trying hard. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Special friend.
Brain power.
Yeah, it changes yearly. So, like, what was, say, 4 birds for one species last year might only be 2 this year, or it might be 4, but you can only shoot 2 females. Like that's so every year they base it off of previous years, like studies and populations and bag kills too. So, like, I get a survey. You probably
I got the survey.
Anybody who buys a license, you'll get a survey, and they pretty much ask you to give them an idea of how many different ducks you shot or geese you shot or whatever.
Woodcock, snipe.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other birds on there too besides just ducks and geese. The other cool thing is, so with the New Hampshire waterfowl license, you can actually hunt the Connecticut River Zone in Vermont.
Yep.
Which is
just like a fishing license.
Yep.
So that's nice because it gets us over in some of those farms. And
we hunt a lot of areas.
Yeah, that's a nice.
Side.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you're hunting fields, that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah. That's all I have for that.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
You must have more questions.
How early is early?
So,
what did we get up last year during that early sit?
I would say it very much depends on where we're going, okay?
And it depends how much gear we're bringing. Most
times we go, I think we're getting up around 4.
I would say
earlier.
The early one, I think we got up at the earliest you and I have gotten up is 3:30. I think.
No, I had one where we went up to Lancaster, an
I
hour drive, and we left at like 2 a.m. It's a rough morning.
It's a really rough
one.
But
a lot of times we're done by like 9 a.m. You know
right.
what I mean? So it's kind of cool. Like we go hunt for a while and do all this stuff, and then 9 a.m. we're exhausted. We've shot a bunch of birds, and we're like going to get food or
we drive around and try and find more birds.
Find stuff for another day, or
or if we don't see any birds, we go find them.
Yeah. So it can be. You can hunt evenings. You can do all sorts of stuff, whatever you want. But
the morning,
your own adventure.
Evenings. Okay.
The mornings are way better.
I would prefer to be out there before daylight. Because, so depending on where we go, we got setup to do. So if we're hunting in a field and we're setting up decoys, it takes a while. Then you got to grass in your blind, and you got to do all these things, and it takes time. And then you want to be ready to go, because a lot of times, especially with ducks, geese not so much, but ducks especially, they're flying at like first light. We have ducks a lot of times circling us and landing in our decoys, and we're looking at our phones going, we still have 10 minutes to legal shooting time. You know what I mean?
And then you try to figure out which one's a duck and which one's not the decoy when it's still barely any light.
We have some with pellets in them. You can shake it.
Listening to you guys on the previous podcast talking about the feel of morning hunts. It's 2 a.m. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sitting on the river watching the sun come up and everything wake up on the river, and you got that low fog. It's a gorgeous way to wake up to the morning.
Yeah, it's cool. Yep. And there'll be times where we're hunting areas and it's so foggy first thing
you can't
see, but you can just hear birds humming, like ducks flying right through the blind. Like I'm talking 4 feet from your face, and you just hear right by, and then you can hear them landing in the water, and we're all like, "What is going on? We can't see anything." And then the fog breaks, and birds are everywhere, and it's cool.
definitely.
And then all chaos happens.
Yeah, then it's all chaos. And once the first shot rings out for the day, it starts popping them off, and then they start moving around a little bit more. And then I've had places I've gone where you're pinballing birds between groups of people on the in the pond that we were hunting, and the birds would fly from that. They'd shoot at them. They'd fly towards us. We'd shoot at them. They'd make a big circle and come back around and try and land again. And those guys would shoot at them, and they'd spin back around.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, it can get exciting.
It's wicked exciting, and it's addicting when it happens, and it happens right. So there's a difference between like jump shooting birds, like you're walking into spots and just trying to find them on the water somewhere and blasting them, you know, or they're flying by and you're like what we call sky busting. You're just launching Hail Mary shots at them way too far, not even having a chance. Like, that's a totally different game. We don't really try to do that.
No.
When you decoy birds in and they do exactly what you want and it works, it's awesome. It's
Sure.
like I equate it to like the turkey thing.
I was
you know
just
what I mean?
gonna say
you
that.
have your turkey decoy up. You've been talking to that bird. He's off the roost, and here he comes full strut right into you. It's like it's that same sort of feeling.
Yep.
And
But it happens a lot.
it happens.
Like, it doesn't just happen the one time you shoot the turkey. It's like you do it, and then another flock, and then another flock, and another flock.
And a big thing goes into how you set up your decoys. That can lead us into this next part of this, which is you set your spread up. So you're going to have your blind set up, and then you're going to set your spread up for where you want the birds to land. So you're going to leave an opening, and then maybe put some decoys on this side, some decoys on this side, making kind of like a U, so they have the room to come in and land, and they're going to be landing right in front of your blind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want to kind of like tee them up to get to what, and sometimes it doesn't work great.
No.
Sometimes you think what
had
you
them
have
land
is a good
behind us.
setup, and you have them land behind you, and you're like, now what do we do? But when you do it right and it works awesome. And you try to create like what we call like a stopping arm or something, depending on where you think the birds are going to be coming. It's also a lot of times based off of wind. Ideally, not always, but ideally, the birds like to land into the wind. You know, so we try to play wind direction into our ideas, and we create little pockets for them to land in where we want to be shooting. And I'm a firm believer in like movement. There's a lot of people who aren't, but I'm a firm believer in movement. So I have a motorized decoy. I have ones that splash the water, things that make it look like duck activity, not just a bunch of solid blobs sitting still. You know?
Yeah.
I have one that sits there and it'll vibrate. It has a weight inside that spins around and it vibrates,
Yeah.
which then makes all, like if we're just hunting a stagnant pool, it makes all the other decoys in the pool kind of just move around just a little bit.
But it works, and you know, you put your Mojo decoy out in the middle there, and you got your pocket, and then
Just don't shoot that one. That one's the most
and
expensive.
when you have the ducks, like I said, I don't know how to explain it. You got to experience it. When the ducks come by, and you know, sometimes they'll just drop right in. Sometimes they'll circle 2 or 3 times, and when they're circling, and you're calling to them, and you're watching them, and then they bank way out, and then they just turn and they cup their wings, and you can just see them. They drop altitude like crazy, and they're like, here it goes, and everyone's like, we're all getting itchy. Guns are getting up, we're getting on the edge of our seats, everyone's ready. Sometimes people are like ready to throw that safety off, like it just happens, and then yeah, all hell breaks loose. You open up, someone calls it what we do call the shot, so it's not just like free for all. We typically, if there's like 4 of us, we'll pick one person to be like, all right, you're gonna call the shot basically, so that person will wait, and when that person says now, then everyone just kind of
The top of the blind flies back,
and things
either
happen.
stand up or stay seated, whatever.
You know, and we have certain rules. We try to shoot our lanes, so where I'm not shooting across over here in front of you guys, you know what I mean? So if we try to do it so that birds will come in and everyone has a chance at shooting, you know, depending on what's happening. But
obviously, you can't always control it. We had that day where you were the only one that got that shot off sitting on the left-hand side of the blind.
Yeah, that happens.
And it is what it is, but it's fun watching. Like, me and Brian sat there that day and just, Ty got the first 2 birds right there. Boom, done. So.
Yeah. What else? Where are we going next? Ask questions. You must have questions. I could go on all day about this.
So, I know we brought it up in the last podcast, and Zach made a comment afterwards. Banded birds.
Oh, yeah.
So,
What is a banded
birds.
bird?
I'm going to let you
it's
explain
fancy.
that,
They just
because
got- they
I
got
don't
jewelry.
I don't have any bands yet, so I'll let you explain that one.
That bling.
Wait, what happened to the one?
No,
Oh,
that
was
was
Johnny.
Johnny's.
That was Johnny.
Yeah.
We
We thought
should-
it was mine originally, but it was actually
Are
Johnny's.
we going to story time after this? Because we should talk about that. Remember the head came off?
Yeah.
Anyways. Okay. We'll talk about that after. Okay, so banded birds, all right? So So this all goes back. Waterfowl are regulated federally, right? So that's another reason why you don't screw up and do things you should, because it's a big time problem, federal fines and issues and all sorts of stuff. They also banned birds, and they do many different types of birds, but primarily for us, we're focusing on ducks and geese, Canada geese, and different species of ducks around here. I mean, you can find banded birds anywhere in the country, but for us around here, it's going to be mostly, we're going to see Canadian geese and different species of ducks. And it's literally a little metal band that goes around their leg, and they have their group of scientists or whatever they are. I don't know what you call them. Biologists. That's the word I'm looking for.
Go.
One of those words. It's got "ist" at the end of it.
Excited.
Paul got that one. I like it. Anyways,
Came to me.
yeah.
I have been.
He's been waiting for that. Anyways, moving on. So they ban birds, and the idea is tracking purposes, so they can help figure out migrations and population stuff and all these different things. So when you kill a bird with a band, there's literally on the band, there's a number, like an identification number, and then there's other things on there that says like call 1-800 whatever the thing is. It's band something, band.gov, or I don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
And you literally call that. I believe you can go online too.
You can do it online because you did it online that day.
From my phone, maybe. Yeah, you can go online or you can call. And you literally enter that information. You enter the date, where you killed the bird, all this sort of stuff, and you'll end up getting a certificate emailed to you, or mailed. It used to be mail, but now I think it's all email. And it tells you everything about that bird. It tells you how old the bird is, the gender of the bird, the species of the bird, and where it was banded, and when it was banded. So, like, I have a couple Canadian geese ones that were banded, like, the birds are, like, I don't know, however many years old, and they were banded, like, hundreds of miles away. And then I have some that are banded, like,
Haverhill.
5 miles from where I shot it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Same with ducks. There's a few duck ones I have. And then there's also interesting ones, a neck band they call it. It's a plastic one that goes around their neck, and it's made so that they can be observed from a distance by somebody easily, versus having to like kill or trap the bird to see what the band on the leg is.
Yep.
So the banding process is for them as far as like studying the birds and all that sort of stuff. But as hunters, it's like jewelry.
Yeah.
When we shoot a banded bird, it's like awesome. You put it on, you have a lanyard with your calls, and like the typical thing everyone does is you put the band on your lanyard. It's like a prize. And you start collecting them as you go.
You got quite a few.
I don't have a ton compared to some people.
Yeah, no,
there's
some
guys
people.
out there
There's
that
guys
have
out there
tons.
with tons.
Yeah.
And it depends on where you hunt them. Like guys in the Midwest and other areas of the country, they band them like crazy. They're shooting banded birds every day they go out. For us, if we shoot a couple in a season, it's like awesome.
Yeah. Johnny's first bird that day was a banded bird.
Yeah.
So it's a lot rarer to have a banded bird.
For us around here, it definitely is. Yeah.
Last year, I think there was more. Was it last year they banded all those ones in Haverhill? And we had that whole batch that was local. I know there was a year that they banded a bunch early on in the year in Haverhill, and then there was a couple people that were grabbing those birds up because they were still kicking around come season. But other than that, most of the time,
yeah,
you don't see them as
that's
often.
the banded birds.
Be cool to see like if now still some are getting from that same tag, like if they do really return exactly where.
I think
every
you'd
year,
find that
you
a
know
lot.
what I mean?
Yeah, it's pretty cool because like I've killed a handful that literally were banded years prior. You know what I mean? So it's pretty neat to see. And some of them, like I said, have been far away, and other ones have been just a couple miles.
Yeah.
So, what else were we going with that?
Story time.
Story time.
Story time. You want story time?
We're almost to an hour, so let's end with some stories.
You want to? Okay. So this, I think this would end it great because this goes back to the reason I love waterfowl hunting is the social part of it.
Yeah.
Because we have a fun time, mostly. Sometimes it sucks.
There's been some shitty times.
Like I've dunked myself in the river a handful of times, and all right. So stories. So I can tell you a few. Do you want to start with one? Or you want me to start?
Well, you already brought it up with Johnny when the head came off. So we were. I don't remember where we were. We were over a flooded out cornfield. We had a decent sized little flock come in.
Shooting ducks. So
Shooting ducks. Yeah.
We found a cut cornfield in an area that we hunt that had flooded, and now it had like knee-deep water in this pocket of the field, like the low pocket of the field, and that's where we set up.
Yeah, we set up on the backside, and we had this flock come in, shot. One of them was wounded. it took off running across. I was in the middle seat, which the front of the blind opens up. So I took off after it, after we got done. Did I can't remember now. Is that the one I took a pop shot at and then grabbed onto it? Because it was still flapping and went to wring its neck and the whole body just goes phew.
So Paul grabs it. Me and Johnny are sitting in the blind.
You watched it more than I can remember what I did.
We were sitting in the blind, and he's walking back with this duck in his hand. It's still alive, and a lot of times we do what's called wringing the neck, and you just kind of give that thing a few twists, and it helps eliminate the bird faster so they don't suffer, right?
So, yeah.
Paul's walking towards us in the block, coming across the cornfield, and we're watching him, and he's got this duck, and he starts to wring its neck, right? And next thing you know, he's doing this motion, and you just see the body go like this. And then we see Paul pause and look around, and then he goes over, and he comes back, and he throws this duck in Johnny's lap. And there's a body with no head and a band, and then a head. And so John's holding both parts, and we're like, this is really cool, because you just shot your first duck as a banded duck, and Paul just ripped its head off. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
That was a good one.
Let's see, I can tell you another good one. So a good friend of mine, I'm not going to say a name, but Paul knows who it is. Wanted to get into waterfowl hunting, never done it. I took him out. He went and bought a $1,300 shotgun, right? Beautiful shotgun. We find these geese in this field, and we weren't set up. We were out scouting. We decided, you know what, we're going to just maybe do a little jump shoot on these geese, see if we can sneak up close enough and maybe just jump them real quick. We weren't planning on hunting. We didn't have anything with us other than guns. So we get out there, and we jump them, and they take off, and we both shoot, and I shoot one. He missed. I shoot one, and it lands on the other side of this pond, and he was only winged. He wasn't dead. He was just wounded. And he's standing there looking around. I'm like, shit, he's gonna take off. So I yell to the other guy. I'm like, hey, go over and grab him. Well, he's never seen a goose up close, and geese are pretty big. I don't know if you guys have ever seen one, but they can be pretty scary too.
Mm-hmm.
They're nasty.
They got an attitude.
He takes off running around the pond, right? I'm watching the whole thing, like, okay, cool, he's gonna get over there. He gets close to it, and he stops, and I'm like, what is he doing? Like, go pick it up, grab it. And he's looking at it, and they're like in a 10 feet apart from each other. They're in like this standoff. And the goose is like honking at him, and he's just standing there looking at him. He pulls his gun up and shoots and blasts this thing. The goose flips over. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like, just grab it. Don't destroy the bird. You know what I mean? The thing gets back up. And all of a sudden, I'm like yelling. I'm like, just
Terminator
grab
goose.
him. Just grab him. Like, trying to tell him, don't keep shooting it. He's like shooting at point blank range. Just grab him. He takes his shotgun by the barrel. And I'm not joking you. I watched him beat this goose like this with a shotgun so many times that he cut himself. He was bleeding, and he bent the gun. He could not open or close the action. It was bent shut. He had to send the thing out and have the whole thing fixed for hundreds of dollars. And I'll tell you what, it sounds funny, but you had to see it in person to see a grown man beating this goose with a shotgun like this. And if I don't do that, I'll just walk up to it and grab it. Mm-hmm. But he comes back over and he's freaked out. He's like, I've never seen a goose up close. That thing was scary. And I'm like, oh God, what did you just do?
You're like, we're gonna do an ethics of hunting class with you right now.
Anybody that was watching was probably mortified at what just happened. So anyways,
what's he doing, Mort?
Yeah.
Is he beating the duck? Stop him.
Anyway, so that might offend some people, but I apologize. It was funny to watch.
Grandma's trying to just put her laundry
It's a good lesson on what not to do.
Don't do that. Just don't.
They seem big and scary, but you can literally walk up and grab them.
Yeah.
And then you can harvest them cleanly and end their misery quickly if you need to, and whatever you need to do. But that was.
So I will say, I shot at one last year that scared the crap out of me, and it was a duck when it popped out of the bushes. Remember last year when I lost that one? We were walking through tall grass, and that thing came out of the bushes at me and scared the absolute crap out of me. And I just dusted it in the grass, and they were all on the other side of the island looking, going, what the heck? I'm like, yeah, sorry.
So I got another good story with the same guy. This is like a year later after he's now.
There's a lot of good stories with this person.
He's now I'm going to call him a certified waterfowl hunter. Okay, so we're hunting this section of the Connecticut River that we always hunt, and it's hard to get through unless they cut some cornfields. Otherwise, we have to hike in quite a ways, and we decided we were going to hunt it with a few of our other friends shortly after we had heavy flooding and rain. Well, we decided the best plan was going to be put all of the gear in my boat, and then everybody else was going to hike in through the cornfield way up the river, like a mile upriver, and he and I were going to put the boat in and head upriver, and this is at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So we get everything loaded up. They all take off in another vehicle, go head up to where the spot is. We're going to motor upriver, and we're going to meet them at this spot, and we're going to get all the gear out and set up and be good. Well, we get there, right? And it's, mind you, like I said, after a lot of flooding and raining and everything, the river is ripping. And it's 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and it's foggy. It's always foggy over there on the Connecticut River. So we get everything in the boat. We get the boat in the water, and I tell him, push us out. And I have just this little 15 horsepower motor and a trolling motor, right? He pushes us out, and I can't get the motor to start. And he's looking at me like, you idiot. Why didn't you start the motor before we pushed out in the river? I'm like, I don't know. I figured it would start. So now I'm pulling, and he starts freaking out. I'm like, what? And he's shining a spotlight, and we're floating real fast towards one of the concrete bridge abutments. So I take the trolling motor, and I fire that up, and I spin us around quickly, and I avoid the bridge, and I get us over to the shore, and he's hugging a tree now to keep us from going further downriver. I finally get the motor started, right? We get back out into the water, and I got that thing full bore. It's only a 15-horse motor. I got that thing ripping, and we both have headlamps on and a spotlight, and it's hard to see in the fog, and we're staying close to the shore so we can kind of gauge where we're at, and we're barely moving. I'm talking it looks like we're going like this.
Yep.
The river was moving. Next thing you know, he's freaking out. He's in the front of the boat, and he's screaming. I'm like, what? And he just takes the spotlight and goes like this, and I watch an entire tree, root ball and everything go right by. And he's like, dude, this is not a good idea. And I'm sitting there going, and I'm like, we have no choice. All the gear's in the boat. They're up there waiting for us. We need to get there. He's like, dude, this is not a good idea. The river's in flood stage right now. We should not be doing this. So I convince him to stay in the boat because he really wanted to get out of the boat. So I put him in the bow of the boat. And I can't see anything because I got the thing. We're planed like this, barely moving. And this is how the whole trip went. It's funny to tell this story now looking back. I was actually a little nervous. He was freaked out. He's in the front of the boat with a headlamp and a spotlight, and he's literally doing this. And then I would steer that way, and then he'd be like, and I would steer that way, and we kept doing that. And then and I'm not joking you, the entire time I'm watching tires, trees, everything fly by us as we're going up the river. And we get to this corner as the river makes a hard 90-degree turn. And all of a sudden, I remember this like it was yesterday, he starts screaming, and I'm like, I don't know what he's doing because he's not pointing, he's just screaming. And finally, he's doing this motion of a stop, and I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? And then I quickly yanked the motor and turned the boat 90 degrees. And we're almost beached the boat. We're right up to the edge of the shore, 3 more feet, and we were going right into the side.
He was going to launch like Superman off the boat.
Yeah, he would have gone off the boat. And so anyways, we finally make our way up there, and he's freaked out, and he finally says to me, and I knew this, but I forgot all about it, he can't swim.
You sadistic son of a bitch.
So in all fairness, the description of that river, I don't know if any of us could have swum in that river.
No, you would have been dead, but at least I felt a little bit more comfortable. He was freaked out the whole time, and then reminds me after we get there that, dude, I can't swim. And I was like, yeah, good point. We shouldn't have done this. So anyways, it's moments like that after they're done, we're like, dude, that was awesome. That was fun.
Yep.
Glad we did that. Let's not do it again.
Yeah. Oh, he won't. He will not go back on the boat. No. I can guarantee you that right now. That was the end for him. Him and water. He'll shoot ducks all day long from the side, but he will not get in the boat or go out in the middle of the river. But anyways, yeah, looking back on it was really stupid, but we had a good time.
That's one thing too. Like what he's talking about, like the river being in flood stage. The one thing to think about too, a spot that you've always gone when you're duck hunting. Like for a year, you'll go to the same spot, use it. The next year, because the river's changed the banks and everything.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy in town here went out to go to our spot that we had hunted for the past 2 years. We knew how to get there in the dark. We barely had to use headlamps. We're walking. Next thing I know, I'm like, I'm in water. He's like, we just had some rain. Maybe it's a little high, but shouldn't be too bad. Kept walking. Next thing I know, I was up to my nipple line in water. And I'm like, we got a problem. Turn the headlight on turbo mode. And if I had taken one more step, I would have been in my waders, up over my neck in water and been sunk.
Yep.
Right. And it's like, you got to keep that mindset of this is ever changing.
Yeah.
The grounds you're hunting aren't staying the same. It's not like we're up on the mountain where there's nothing changing the landscape. The landscape's staying the same for the most part, other than the weather.
Nothing we're gonna find year to year. Yeah, except for blowdowns.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I have one more story that I'll talk about. This is a good one too. So, it was funny looking back on it, but it sucked for me. But a friend of mine hunts, one of the ones that got me into waterfowl hunting, hunts a lot down in the Lakes region, and he had permission to hunt this. He had permission to hunt this field that's actually a football field in a town, and geese were going there, and it was going to be a good morning. So we all meet up at like 3 o'clock in the morning down there, and when we hunt in fields, we have usually a layout blind that we use. So it's like I said, it's a style that you're laying down in, and you have doors that close. And we do what's called grassing it in. So when we get there, we find, depending on what the layout of the area is, what we're going to use to grass our blind in to make it look like the rest. And it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's dark, and I'm half asleep, and we're all picking away along this fence line, make our blind, go to town. Daylight comes, geese come, we shoot tons of birds. Like, we killed a lot. We had a blast. We had a great day. Went home. The next morning, we were planning to go back for another hunt. I wake up at like 2 o'clock, and my face is on fire. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I go in the mirror, my face is all red. It's swollen and it's red. And I'm like, holy crap, like, what happened? So then I text everybody. It's like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm not going to be able to make it. They're like, oh, all right, well, whatever. I go lay back down on the couch. Well, my wife wakes up a while later, and she's like, what is going on? I couldn't open my eyes. My face blew up. Next thing you know, I just had a hard time breathing. All this stuff was happening. She ended up bringing me to the emergency room. I was in the hospital for 3 days. We grassed our blinds in with poison ivy. And so I'm in the hospital. I don't look like myself. My face is swollen.
No, his face was huge.
My face is swollen. I'm covered in poison ivy. I can't breathe. Like, they had me on all sorts of stuff, and I was miserable for days. Well, I'm in the hospital that day, and everyone's like, oh my God, like, what's going on? Like, all this stuff. And I told them, I'm like, I think, and then sure enough, they're like, yeah. Well, they all gave me crap. Well, then next thing you know, each day one of them was texting, hey, my legs are broken out, my hands are broken out. One guy had it all over his other areas. It was pretty rough. Well, then the same guy that we had the stories about with the boat and the shotgun, he decided
he's not going hunting with you anymore, does he?
He's back. Our blinds are at his shop. And he's talking to me on the phone while I'm in the hospital. And he says, dude, I got it figured out. Don't worry about it. I'm getting rid of it now. I'm burning it all. And I said, don't do that. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, just Google it. Google burning poison ivy. He called me back a few minutes later. He's like, that's a terrible idea. I was like, yeah, I wouldn't do that. So he ended up then scrubbing everything down. He was all freaked out for that. But yeah.
And he's not allergic, if I remember right. He didn't get anything.
I don't think he got anything. No, but I was bad. I was real bad.
Yeah, your whole body puffed up.
Yeah, so it's memories like that. That's why we love duck hunting. Doesn't it sound fun?
Right? After the track record that Paul and I have every time we go out in the woods together, I don't know if this is going to be a good idea.
One of us always falls.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
It always happens, and so far neither one of us have gotten seriously hurt, thank God. But
it's okay. I fell with Tyler's shotgun the first time he took me out.
I'll tell you what.
I ate
It's
it
hard.
hard.
It's hard hunting rivers around here because the Pemmy and everything else, it's all like slippery rock. That's why it's nice hunting like the Connecticut and everything. It's mostly sand. And
Nice.
It's easy walk. Although there are some muddy spots that are a little difficult. But mostly it's pretty good. But hunting around here is difficult on the river. I've like I said earlier, I've dunked myself numerous times in December, like November, December. We've been hunting, and I've literally gone in waders with water, guns under the water. But it's fun. We still have a good time.
Make the best of it.
Right.
And I think if you guys are down for it, like I said, we'll do a bunch this fall at some point. Do a few, and you guys will get a taste of it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be pretty fun. And I think if, get a few of us out there, have a good time, get some stuff on video, I think it'll be pretty neat,
Yeah. I think it would make for good videos.
Oh, yeah.
We'll make for
I have
fun
some on my
videos.
phone that I show you guys later. It's pretty cool.
Sweet.
But other than that, you guys got any other questions?
No, I mean, honestly, I think maybe if we start to think of more, we can do like a part 2 episode.
Sure, yeah.
But we're over an hour now, so this has been pretty good.
Yeah.
Filled up a good amount of time real quick, so... Thanks for talking about this, because that opened my eyes to a little bit of stuff
I'm
I didn't
looking
know
forward to
about.
it,
So this
for
is,
sure.
I actually do think it'll be pretty fun. And
Yeah.
it might be worth me not sitting
Yeah.
in October.
It's a different world. It's like we said earlier, when that big buck comes in and that happens, it's awesome. But this is just a different feel, and I don't know how to explain it other than like I picture the more social event. I'm not by myself sitting in a stand or a saddle or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm in a blind with 4 guys, and we're laughing, eating, drinking, having a good time, blasting away. Like
He's eating candy at 2 in the morning, 3 in the
yeah,
morning.
exactly.
Like,
Cracking
sugar.
open a Pepsi at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're trying to get the drink down like that when ducks are flying in.
Yeah.
It's a cool thing, and getting other people involved is really fun. Like I said, Paul came along, and now Paul loves to do it. And
I honestly had more fun the past couple of years going out with you and Brian and the kids too.
Yeah.
Watching the kids get to go out
yeah,
has been fun. So
yeah, it's neat.
Good.
There you go.
Well, I guess
There you
that's
go.
it for
Yeah.
now. But yeah, we'll probably do another episode, especially once we start getting into it. So
yeah, definitely.
Do
We
some
could probably
follow-up
do one
episodes on
after. Do an episode after going on a hunt.
yeah,
or whatever.
that would be a lot. That's a good idea for sure. So, and we don't really have anything to update on, so that's pretty much it for now.
Right on.
But awesome. Thanks for listening, guys, and just catch us on the next episode.